Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest ThingCast with special guest Joel Polis, aka Fuchs. Before we get started, Ian is going to give us a quick production update on the documentary. And as always, we encourage you to take screenshots of the live stream and post on social media. You can tag us at Think Expanded on Instagram and Twitter/X. And we are the Thing Expanded on Facebook. Ian, take it away.
Yeah, well, greetings, everybody. Welcome to another ThingCast. It's amazing how far we've gone on this journey. I don't know what's happening to time. I'm getting slightly scared now because time seems to be going very quickly. I'm sort of like I've got one foot in two camps at the moment. One foot still in production. I'm still doing interviews. I interviewed Joel a few months ago, but it seems like yesterday. And another foot is in the edit. I'm starting to look at chapters and put stuff together. I'm trying as best I can to figure out the timeline of infection. I know there's no answer to this particular puzzle. I know there's actually, the joy is not knowing, but I am attempting to understand what happened. Maybe Joel can help tonight, me figure out that. And I'm also just starting to sort of that bit where the story is taking shape. It's a really nice part of the equation is when you start putting quotes together and you start listening to them. It's all very early. It's very raw footage, but you can see the story take shape and you can see the surprises start to emerge out of the documentary. You think, well, you put X against Y, then it becomes something more than just the two quotes. It becomes more of a thing. So it's great. Long way to go. But I think we're getting somewhere, definitely. Right, Josh.
Awesome. Let's dive right into the conversation. First off, Joel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And I thought it would be fun to kind of Tarantino things. We're going to start, in the future, and then we're going to work our way back. So I want to start with the big question that everyone is going to ask today. What do you think happened to Fuchs?
He died.
Elaborate?
Scribble this down on my pencil. Timeline. He died. Oh, right.
Yeah.
In the original filming when we shot on Universal at Universal, I had a completely different death, and you may have seen pictures of it. It's like, and I remember John came to me and said, "What am I thinking? It's not a slasher movie. This is, there's an entity trying to survive and all that." So all those scenes that took place outside when we shot up on the glacier in Alaska, they were new to the script. They weren't in the original script. When John got to the set, he looked at it and realized that it's the climate, the environment is another character in the screenplay. And he saw how beautiful it was out there, as did we all. At least certainly I did. I just loved it up there. But he opened up the script and did a lot of rewriting so that we were shooting outside and made use of the script. I mean, if you think about it, the play as written is kind of like 12 Angry Men or any of those plays that, you get a bunch of guys in a place and they've got to be there and there's a big conflict and they're trying to figure out what to do and they can't get out until it's figured out. So you could almost do the screenplay as a play if you think about it. So in any event, he opened it up and he gave me a whole bunch of more material than I originally had. He put me in about 6 or 7 extra scenes than I'd been in, and like the Thiokol, the scene where I'm with Kurt reading Blair's diary. So when I got to we got to the scene where I go outside and am killed. I'm going to leave it to your imagination. The conclusions that you draw are probably correct. Trust your instincts. I mean, McCready says what he says, where's Fuchs, and gives an explanation for it. That's possible. But I think John's intention was to leave, as the last scene shows, still don't know what's going to happen at the end of that movie. Is one of the is Childs the thing? Is McCready the thing? We don't know. And they're going to find out, I guess, about 10 minutes after the film ends. So,
But there's an interesting, and I know there's no answer to this, and I've been, I've been trying to wrap my head around it. One of the questions your character's death asks in relation to the film is that if he is infected, is he aware of that infection, and so has?
well, that became a big
Yeah,
question for us on the set.
yeah.
If you are infected by the thing, do you know it, or do you just are you going along until the moment that it reveals itself in you? Which is more like an infection, a virus. You may be carrying something around, and when a moment comes, it suddenly explodes in your system. Uh, and in the last 5 years of my life, boy, I've seen a lot of that. So it is an interesting question, isn't it? But we used to go around every day and say, well, if you're the thing, do you know you're the thing? Or do you not know it? Because then it becomes a real question of choice. Are you trying to infect other people, or are you not? Is it just trying to survive and find a way out into a better environment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Ken, one of our backers, Ken, no last name, he submitted a theory that I've never heard before, but he wrote, is it possible Fuchs made a deal with the thing to save himself and the deal went sideways? Interesting question.
I I don't think the thing spoke English. I you know no, it's a rabid. Um, I mean, just imagine it's being attacked, and its instinct is to kill before it is killed. So no, that's highly. It certainly never occurred to me. Although John did say, or actually Richard Mazur brought it to my attention, that I'm one of the only characters on screen that does something that is not narcissistic. I'm actually trying to do something to prevent my colleagues from being infected, and it's a selfless act that he commits. Because when you're sitting there, certainly now when I watch the scene where I go outside, I'm sitting there and I go, "No, go back, go back! What are you nuts? Get out of there!" So like that.
Can I just ask about your original death sequence, the one you filmed in LA? It's something to
Well,
do with
I don't remember very much
yeah,
except that they spent a lot of time hanging me from that door and putting that shovel in my
the
chest.
shovel, yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
I got a great picture of me waving, with this and all that. It was a reveal. It was going to be a reveal. Somebody opens the door and there's Fuchs, and everybody was like, "Oh fuck." But then John came to his senses and realized that that just was not the intention of the organism, of the thing. It was
And
to
let's not
survive. So I mean, that is so calculated and gruesome. It's for a different movie.
Yeah.
right, and let's not forget the door was to Childs and Windows. No, not Windows. Childs and Palmer's marijuana farm. Right.
It's pretty freaky, you know that.
Josh
That's
knows
what I get
everything.
paid. That's what I'm here for.
I got it. Got it.
Um, and yeah, Joel, take us back to the beginning. How did you first become attached? How did you land the role?
How did I get the role? I got a call from my agent. I heard they were doing the thing. Now, my brother and I used to. I mean, it would pop up 4 times a year on a Saturday afternoon, movie channel. And I never forgot when James Arness was throwing those dogs around. Terrifying. And then when those guys were hung upside down, and we realized it was feeding off of them. I mean, it was terrifying. But if you watch that movie, half of it is just talk, 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 talk. All that scientific stuff, and whatever. And the action doesn't really start till almost halfway through the film. Um, so I got very excited about the possibility of being in it because it was the thing. And I remember I walked to Central Park South, and I went up in a tall building, and I met John. And it turned out that he had actually seen me in the only student film I ever did while I was at USC, and remembered me from it. And so that was a kind of, suddenly we had some common ground to talk about and everything. And then I love the movie so much that I was very excited about it. And they called me back, and I went up for the second interview, and I read from the script. And when I got back down to Central Park, walking through the park, I just was going, "Oh God damn it! I blew it! I blew it! Shit! Shit! I wanted to be in that movie." And then I got a phone call later that afternoon, and I just was high as a kite.
Was it always going to be Fuchs you were up for, or was it a number of roles?
It was only going to be Fuchs I was up for. Um, the description in the original script was Fuchs, a biologist, intelligent, non-assuming, something
Right.
like that. You know,
You took some college courses, right, to prepare?
I went down to Brooke College in Manhattan, and I'd never had a college biology course, although I had one in high school. And we dissected frogs, and I, got to get my. And I'll never forget. You probably heard the story. I got on the set. I was all excited about, the work I was doing. I grew my hair out, my beard, my hair was long, and I told Wilford Brimley about that I'd gone to take a biology course, and he said, "What for?" And I said, "Well, Wilford, I kind of wanted to get into the mindset of a biologist." And he said, "This movie is about rubber and steam." It was hilarious. Wilford saw things the way he saw them. But that just really set me back. And, it turned out to be an enormously exciting experience. If I had to do anything differently these many years later, I just would have put Blair and I in like hazmat suits or something a little more, prophylactic for the situation at hand. But I got it. It was a different time, and we weren't nearly as amped up as we are now on, biological threats, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely hits harder post COVID for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There,
when you, oh, sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I
No,
said,
I
there.
was going to say, in 1982, a remote Antarctic base, would you have hazmat suits? Would they be prepared? Maybe they
Well,
wouldn't be expensive biological
now
attack.
that's a good question. They wouldn't have been ready for that kind of
Yeah,
thing. You may be right, but just something, gloves
yeah.
and a mask, and operating, a doctor, something to, even a surgical gown or something like that. Just something to acknowledge that this was not a brisket.
Right. And when you got to the refrigerated sets at Universal, I believe you set a certain fashion statement among your crew.
With what I was wearing,
Yeah.
um, I there was a costume designer, and basically because of the nature of the material, they decided that dark colors, workman's clothes. It's a workstation basically. It's a weather station, but there are a few scientists, but it's mostly a working class thing, like a rig on a offshore or something. So they wanted to keep it dark and somber. The only fashion statement I made was I remember I had the costumer make for me a neck collar out of wool, because if I ever get a cold, this is where it comes in. So I had that kind of gray neck collar, and once I showed up on the set with it, all of the crew asked for the costumer to make them one. So shortly after I showed up on screen with that on, everybody was wearing them to protect them because it was cold up there. Yeah.
Right.
So if I can ask, if you have talking of Alaska and the exterior shots, if I could say, is there one single thing from the shooting on location of the thing that springs to mind? What is it? What do you remember the most, apart from the cold? That is.
Well, it was just gorgeous up there. It was so raw. It was what the Earth looked like 50,000 years ago without human beings around. And I remember on the trip up the radio controlled road, on the telephone wires, bald eagles. I mean, hundreds of bald eagles were sitting on these wires every day we'd go up there. It was extraordinary. I'd never seen anything like it. And uh, so overwhelming in its power, like looking at the ocean, the snowscape of Alaska, and just magnificent. I just love being up there. So, you guys sent me that picture of the toboggan. Did you send me the picture of the toboggan?
I don't think it was us.
Somebody just sent me a picture of four of us
Yeah.
on a toboggan, about to ski down one of the slopes of the glacier. And of course, I was on it, and a couple of the other guys, none of the cast, but I was on it because I did anything I could to get out into the environment. I've always been a backpacker and a hiker, and there was the guy who was the location manager. He had gone to Oxford, and he was up there with his family. And one day he was leaving to check out a location. He said, "You want to come with?" I said, "Yeah." So I jumped into his helicopter and he started it up and everything. And I said, "So you went to Oxford?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what the hell are you doing up here?" And he looked at me and he just pulled up on the lever on the helicopter, and it suddenly just went like that. And I went, "Oh my God, this is complete." I mean, it was so much fun flying that helicopter around up there. It was amazing and it was just a beautiful place. The overwhelming beauty of the environment really struck me.
And
TK hated it. He just, I'm from Beverly Hills. Get me back there as soon as you can. Please get me out of here. I mean, it was hilarious, you know.
and Gregory Sharp in the comments asks, were you on the bus when it slid off the road? Can you regale us with your memories of that event?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. And thank you, everybody who's tuning in. I appreciate that. Was there a Mitzi from Germany or some up in the front? I believe there was a gal from Germany.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
what happened was we were on Prince Rupert Island, if I'm not mistaken, um, and we had landed in a small plane, and they were going to bus us because the weather was bad to Stewart, British Columbia, which means we had to go over a road that it was just a mountain road, and it wound around this mountain, went up, and then down the other side to Stewart and uh, Hyder, Alaska. And we basically we had dinner at some place, and then they put us in this bus, and it was just like a bus. I mean, it wasn't a deluxe bus or anything, and they started to drive us over the mountain, and it started snowing, and it started snowing really hard. But we didn't have any. I mean, none of us nobody was really aware of it, and we kind of fell asleep, most of us in the bus. It was already 2 in the morning or something, and suddenly the driver yelled "slide" at the top of his lungs, and we popped awake, and the bus, the back of the bus, started sliding toward the mountainside because the snow was covering ice that was on the road. So the back of the bus starts sliding, and we're all what, just going crazy. And then it started sliding the other way toward the edge of the road where it dropped off. And if this bus dropped off, there wouldn't have been no thing. There would have been a lot of lawsuits, but there wouldn't have been no thing. Um, so the bus finally got righted. And if this was a movie, I always say this, the next shot would be the entire cast behind the driver looking out the window with the lights barely lighting up the road as we're continue driving down this road and everything. So that was one thing that happened. There was some kind of a way station, a lodge that they pulled us into to have a meal, and maybe that was the first part of it. Um, but it went down and then up into the parking lot. The ramp to the parking lot went down and then up into the parking lot. And when we went down, the bus got stuck. So the wheels were spinning, the back of the wheels were spinning, and the bus was stuck on the ramp going up to this parking lot, so to speak, toward the lodge where we were going to spend an hour or so to just take a break. And so we didn't know how to get out of it. Maloney was sick as a dog. Something had happened, didn't he agree with him and everything. But I said, and I think it was my idea, I don't think I'm being egotistical when I say this. I said, well, look, we're on ice. Let's push. Everybody get off the bus. We'll get the driver to put it in gear, and we're all behind it, and we'll all push. And they thought I was nuts. But what we did was we rocked the bus forward, and then we all went, and we pushed, and he started spinning the wheels, and it caught, and we were able to get up into the parking lot. And then there was the discussion after that slide thing where I think it was Kurt who said, there's probably a couple $1 million worth of talent on this bus that they just almost dropped off the others. So it was fun. It was fun. It was a big adventure for me.
Do you remember? Is it true that John Carpenter didn't like the cold? That he was one of the ones who kind of like struggled with the temperatures.
I don't know if that's true. He certainly didn't act like it when he was directing, and he showed up for every shot.
Oh yeah, I am sure.
But I do have pictures of him. I'm going to be publishing a book called Snapshots from the Making of the Thing, and I took those little. You might remember, Ian, but
yeah,
I don't think you're going to remember. There are these little yellow boxes. They made throwaway cameras.
Yeah.
And you would take a shot and then you would wind it to the next shot. I took 2 of those with me, and I have about 24 snapshots from up on the glacier. I got a great shot of John. He's just wearing a leather coat. His hair was long and he had a mustache, but he was just wearing a leather coat and jeans, and he was out there. When it was during the day, it would be 25, 30 degrees. It wasn't unbearable, and you really got used to it pretty quickly. If you've ever been backpacking, you get used to it being 50 degrees, 40 degrees. It's not that big a deal. So, but at night it would drop, and then one time it did go down to about minus 30 while we were filming.
And
that was cool.
Right. And something I've asked Peter and Tom Waits on our previous live streams, very important question, Joel. Were you hyderized?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was funny. Because Kurt thought I was a real wuss or something. I don't know why. So he took me over to the bar there in Hyder. And the guy, and I'm like, oh, Kurt, really? So the bartender comes up and he says, you're going to be hyderized. You have to drink this in one drink. You can't take 2 sips. You got to have it in one gulp, and you can't spill any, or you're going to have to buy everybody at the bar a drink. Good luck. So I looked at Kurt, and he's just smiling, thinking, no, this guy's not going to do anything. And I just went, Kurt, really? So what are you so worried about? Because it was 90, it was 180 proof. This stuff. It was, That was so funny. I couldn't talk for like 10 minutes. It just burned my throat all the way down. That was funny. Yeah.
Wow.
What was the
Uh,
camaraderie like between you all? You had time in
Oh,
rehearsal, didn't
look,
you?
I think you must understand that there are seven of us left, and we're in touch with each other. I call Peter every few months. I see David Clennon for lunch every few months. Tom and I stay at his place when I'm in New York. He comes and hangs with me when he's in L.A. Wilford, we were friendly with. I went up to visit him at his house in St. George. We and Keith David, yeah, it was really fun. It was like doing a play, and you get close to the cast, and you're hanging out in the green room or the dressing room, whatever it is, and if it's a good ensemble experience, it's something that stays with you, and you just stay friends. It's your community. So all those guys are part of my community. Here we are 40 years later, and some are with us and some aren't, but the good feeling around the whole experience is still with us.
right. And Johnny47 in the comments asks, did any of Rob Bottin's effects gross you out when you saw them in action?
Oh, Johnny, um, didn't gross me out. It was rather just miraculous, um, which really worked for my character. Wow, look at that! Where's that from? That kind of thing. He was 23 years old when he made this, and he worked himself into a nervous breakdown by the time it was over. But he worked like a demon on all of the effects, and when he originally showed John what had in mind, John just took a look at the stuff and thought, he just said, "Okay, man, make it happen," and hired him like that. And that kid, he was this big bear of a boy with a big beard and long hair and everything. But no, but the effects were just startling. They weren't gross. I mean, they slathered all this shit on it to make it look greasy and all that kind of crap, but they were like works of art, you know, engineering feats, really. Especially that head with the stuff popped out and walked away. John always said when that worked, he said he knew the film was going to work. When he saw that footage, he went, "Okay, we're in. The film's going to work."
Were you on set that day for the Spiderhead? Did you watch it come to life?
Yeah, I did. I believe I did. Yeah, yeah. So I saw a lot of stuff, but you remember, I disappear about a third of the way into the movie. Um, I'm the second one that goes. Bennings is first. And so there was a lot of time when we were in LA that I wasn't on the set. I wish I had gone in every day now just to learn more about that experience. I was out of the theater and this was all new to me. So I wish my curiosity had been a bit larger at that time. But, you know, I saw a lot of it and it was pretty startling. The dogs, just incredible.
Was it easy to work with that? Because obviously they're really complex choreographies, aren't they, to put these effects together? Lots of different pieces, lots going on. And you have
Well,
to be an actor, you have to be fresh and in the moment. Was that easy to do?
yeah. Um, you get used to the rhythm of filming. It's like you get used to the rhythm of doing a play 8 times a week. You get used to the workload. And once again, I have to say my part wasn't big enough, like Kurt's part or Child's, that you're there much of the time and carrying the movie at that moment. I was part of the ensemble. So, and you feed off each other's energy. That's just the way it works.
Right. And speaking of the ensemble, everybody gets a moment to shine in this film. No small parts, as they say, and you get to deliver some of the most iconic lines. There's still activity left in these remains. They're not dead yet. It could have imitated a million life forms on a million planets. What can you remember from shooting that scene in the snowcat with Kurt and delivering those lines?
Well, that was one of the new scenes that John gave me. And I remember that I needed to imbue it with urgency and directness because the stakes were so high. The last time I watched it, I went, oh, I missed. If I could have go back and do that line, I ran over it like Blair was delusional. The chameleon strikes in the dark, and it to the to the biologist in me, I was going, he's losing it. So I just ran over that. But if you think about it, it's a big piece
Yeah.
of the clue. The chameleon strikes in the dark. So it waits till night or till, it separates people and then goes after them. But, oh well.
It still plays beautifully in the film.
Yeah,
So,
I get it. I get it. Actors do that.
yeah.
And
Actors do
Martin,
that a lot. I got to tell you, a lot of times I'll wake up and I'll go, "Oh man, how did I miss?" You know, 30 years later. You know,
Wait, I'll get John on the phone. I know a better line
yeah,
reading.
really.
yeah, Martin Guerra in the comments would like to know: did you ad lib any lines?
Um, I did not ad lib lines. Uh, from my theater experience, the author is the master of the film. I mean, what they write. I didn't realize until later that you're going to need a bigger boat was ad libbed, and brilliant. So, but it worked fine because Fuchs is a person who lived in his mind more than his body, and he, yeah, uh, very unassuming, intellectual, just what the author imagined. I didn't I didn't do any. I didn't ad lib very much.
What were your first impressions on reading the script? Because in some ways, the quality of the script goes unsung, doesn't it? It's a fantastic piece of writing.
Oh, it is. They went back to the original short story by Campbell. Was it Douglas or Jan? You guys know this.
It's John W. Campbell, isn't it?
John
Yeah,
Campbell,
Yeah.
right? 1939. Who goes there? And the Howard Hawks film was my reference point. When I read this script, I went, "Oh my God, this is a whole other movie. This is really good. This is a real thriller from start to finish." I mean, it's a sci-fi thriller, but it's also a horror thriller, if what I'm reading is correct. So I was impressed with the job. What was it? Bill Lancaster did it. And did a wonderful job. And then the thing also that impressed me is that it evolved as the special effects evolved and the suddenly we're in Alaska and now the film's different because we're going outside. The film was a piece of living work, of living art as we kept doing it because things kept revealing themselves that needed to be communicated or added to the communication of what we were doing. And so it was just lovely to be part of that kind of rich creativity, you know? And I'm not taking any credit. I said the lines and showed up. But
still very important.
oh yeah, oh no, absolutely, and I feel so blessed that I was a part of it. But some of the incredible imagination in the movie, that's why it's so popular.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And did you have any conversations or interactions with Bill Lancaster throughout production?
not really. He would communicate through John if something was to be done. And John was the commander of the boat. He was the captain of the ship. So it's his movie through and through. And when I heard that Ennio Morricone was going to do the sound, I went, I'm in heaven. It doesn't get any better than this.
Right. And something I've seen in the comments is did you know who was lurking, at the door when Fuchs goes out with the candle? And I'll make this a two-parter, adding a question of my own. Do you have an idea of what kind of test he was working on before he was killed?
Well, I did have. You saw me grab a flask, a beaker, which I said, John, I got to have something in case this thing shows up. So I said, it's sulfuric acid. Okay, I got sulfuric acid in this thing. That's why I grab it. And um, just basically looking at the molecules, the molecular structure, but I don't have anything specific in mind. It's more of an investigative moment for me. What is this? Yeah.
Right.
No, it's
Um,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah.
In a way, Fuchs is very important because he's, as much as Blair, he's the one who tells the audience kind of what's going on in terms of the nature of the creature, isn't he? He's
Yes.
one who, without it feeling like exposition all the time, he's the one who gives us really important pieces of information.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's why John expanded my part a little bit. It became obvious that Blair was incommunicado, and they needed a link to the science of what was going on to help them figure out how to protect ourselves or get out of there.
Did you? One of the things that always strikes me, and having watched it a lot, is that I use the word realistic, and I know that sounds preposterous because when you sort of say the nature of the film is about a creature and it mutates and all this stuff, but I watch that film and I think this is realistic. It feels real to me
Yeah.
in a way that science fiction and even horror don't tend to feel.
Yeah. And the reactions of the actors is like, yeah, I mean, mostly we were as startled as everybody else is. Holy shit, what's happening with that dog? Oh my God, that kind of thing. Um, the special effects did a lot of our work for us. We just had to look at it. Sigourney, I went to school with Sigourney Weaver. She was a couple classes in front of me, but she told us that when the alien came up out of John Hurt's body, they didn't know what to expect. So some people, I mean, they roll the camera on the master shot. Once the thing disappears, you see some of them laugh. What what was that? I mean, it's in the moment reactions to what they're seeing. Yeah.
Oh, you can't beat the real, can you? You can't beat just that.
No, no,
I think
no.
Ridley Scott says nothing like real fear.
Nothing like real. And I just watched Blade Runner the other day again for the first time in 20, 30. It's brilliant. I mean, oh my God, that our movies were really good.
Yeah, I know.
In
What
the
a year.
70s and early 80s,
Yeah,
man, our movies were really
Yeah.
good. And music,
yeah,
really
Yeah.
good. So,
Golden age for sure.
yeah.
And unfortunately, the thing we all know it's a masterpiece now, but at the time it was not well received, flopped. At what point? Oh, go ahead, Joel.
Oh, I'm looking at a guy named Eric Bachman. Hi, Mr. Polis. I'm an 11-year-old girl who loves horror movies. What age do I need to be to watch this?
Well, we hope that's Eric's daughter or sister.
Well, Erica, I figure 12 or 13 at least.
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe if your dad's in the room and you're holding his hand, it would be okay. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go on.
But be warned, it is pretty scary. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people at the conventions walk up to me and approach me like I'm the Dalai Lama or something and say, "You changed my life. I saw that film when I was 12 years old." And I mean, one kid said, "When you said eat out of cans, don't share your food," he said, "I was scared for days."
Yeah. What's the opposite of gateway horror? Like this really just like knocks the door down and it's all in your face.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, and just going off that, oh, sorry, Ian.
I was going to say,
Oh, Gregory says 80s rule.
Gregory may be
Okay,
of our
that's
generation.
fine. I got you, Greg.
I mean, do you remember you seeing it for the first time, Joel? Do you
Yes,
remember?
I do. Very,
And
very.
Did it live up to the film in your head?
Did it match the film in my head?
You imagined you were making?
Well, it's strange. I took some friends with me to see it. They were in New York, and the marketing was so bad that there were so few people in the theater that it just dampened. It was a weird experience. It did match the movie, but without an audience there to react, I was disappointed, and I thought, what's wrong with this picture? And it was the marketing that was wrong with the picture. We didn't have an audience because E.T. opened the week before, and I think it was Poltergeist or something opened the week after. And the worldwide phenomenon that E.T. became just kind of washed us out for a while. And it was so interesting. And it's funny because the other day I was cleaning out one of my drawers, and I had the original Vincent Canby movie review of The Thing in the New York Times, and he savaged it. And I remember reading it and thinking, "You've got some goddamn nerve," or "You were too old to understand what this was." Really, I mean, you had an idea what a horror film is and a thriller, but you just missed. You didn't see the same movie we made. And I think there was a generational divide because people were not used to that kind of graphics and imagination, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What did
it was an interesting experience for me. And when it started catching on in the video stores and became popular and then really became popular, and it was as if it was it was a not a revenge for John, but it really was. It was the kids got it, you know, and indeed, it was a harbinger for things to come. But also, it was before CGI, so
Yeah.
the the sheer creativity was stunning, just stunning.
yeah? What did Canby call it? Instant junk? Was that the phrase he
I think
used?
I think he called it horror porn
Yeah. Horror porn
or
was a film.
something like that, and yeah, and certainly the times had. What does Hamlet say? This was sometime a paradox, but now the time gives it,
Yeah.
true makes it true. Something like that.
Right.
They couldn't
And
cope. Those critics
yeah,
couldn't cope with it.
Yes, Gary, the summer of '82 was great for movies. I agree.
yeah. And I feel like Christian Nyby, also the director of the original, called it a great ad for J&B, which was like another famous blurb.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Did you guys drink any real J&B during production?
Oh, I'm sure there was a bottle here or there. And I mean, at night, it was a miner's town. They were mining copper and silver up there on this radio controlled road up near where we were shooting. There were these mines. It was the snow capital of the world at that time. There were 14 feet of snow lining the roads. It was like driving through a tunnel without the top on it, getting up there. So these guys would have they'd be on for 3 days and off for 3 days in the mines. And they were serious drinkers. You probably had 6 of the 10 FBI's most wanted up there. And they didn't say anything because they knew where they were. They would just keep them there and hide or on ice, as it were. And they were all heavy drinkers, and they were all packing. That was weird, man. These guys had all the pistol. Everybody had a pistol. It was like, the hell, we're doing The Thing, not Tombstone.
Did they know what you were shooting? What did they ask? What the hell are you making? How did you describe the film to the locals?
I don't remember. I don't remember. We'd say we're doing a sci-fi film. Oh, that's great. You know, Brian. That's good. You know.
And Kaylin, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, in the comments wants to know. I mean, we talked about a lot of memories from filming. What is one memory you take, lasting memory you take from your time on the film?
From the entire trip, um, it was. Um, I've done plays that I adored doing, and I've done them for months at a time. This was my favorite piece of film that I worked on, and it was just a combination of the guys who were on it, the script, the locations, everything. It was just a, it was just a unique and marvelous experience from soup to nuts for me. Yeah.
It's
What were your
amazing.
impressions of Kurt? Kurt was sort of he was becoming an A-list star, wasn't he? He was almost there at that point in
Yeah.
time.
And this movie helped out.
Yeah,
Um, Kurt is he's an underrated talent.
yeah.
I mean, everybody knows who he is, and his work is better and better. I loved his Santa Claus. I mean, he's funny as shit. He's a serious actor, and he's a movie star from beginning to end. He was a movie star. He's an alpha male. He's just one of those guys. He plays the leader, the guy who emerges as the leader. It's not Gary in this. And it's like in that movie Alive, where there's the captain of the rugby team and everybody's looking to him for some kind of direction. But when the shit hits the fan and that airplane lands in the Andes and they've got to survive, they find there's another guy who's the real leader. And the same thing happens in our film. Kurt is like that. He's a natural leader. He His confidence is ridiculous, off the charts, and he knows who he is and what he believes, and he's ridiculously talented. He's great in Tombstone.
Yeah, he is.
He's great as Santa Claus. I mean, he was great in that movie about the oil rig that blew up. I mean, he's the real deal.
Yeah,
He's a leader and he's a leading man. And if you guys haven't seen uh, Bone Tomahawk
yeah.
Bone
Hmm.
Tomahawk,
Tomahawk, yeah,
it's like a take on The Searchers, on John Wayne's The Searchers. It's gruesome at the end, but he's unbelievable. He's terrific. He's just a natural leader. He's a natural leader, and a good guy.
yeah.
Easy to work with. You know. Yep.
Kurt, if you're watching, we love you.
Yeah.
So tell me about
And
John. Just want to. Sorry, I'm now dominating all the questions. I can't help myself.
please.
Kurt is one thing, but what was John like? I mean, as you said, it was John's film. He's the author. He's the guy who made this. But day to day on the set, what's he like to interact with? What's he like as a director?
Well, first of all, he cast it so beautifully, and once he cast it, he relied on the actors to do what we do. He's a great relegator. I mean, with Rob Bottin, he saw what he could do. Run with it. Show me what you got. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Okay, you could do this, this. I mean, he didn't interrupt us very much. He trusted us to do the work that we did, and uh, and he was in control of everything. He was collaborating moment by moment with Dean Cundy,
Mm.
and in terms of the actual filming. But he terrific director, terrific director. I mean, it wasn't Hamlet, or it wasn't, where you got to get in there and figure out what this means and this means, and do that kind of work. But for a film, terrific, really terrific, you know. And
There's,
I'm sure he could do Hamlet if he wanted to.
oh, I'm sure. But there's
Yeah.
I
also
mean, a bright, really out there, in front,
yeah,
visionary. John's visionary. And I remember when he did Starman, big hit, and that was his way of getting back kind of into the studio to work and all that. And I went to him and I said, "Wow, the film was really great." And he went, "Oh, that's sentimental stuff?" He said, "I can do that, no problem." He said, "But that's not how I see the world, Joel. And just take a look around you now." I mean, he saw the world as it is.
Yeah.
So,
And you mentioned earlier, Joel, there was a little description of Fuchs in the script, and you took some biology courses. Did you come up with a fictional backstory about what what he was doing in quote unquote normal life?
yeah, yeah, that's how I work. I, I it's 43 years ago. I don't have the notebooks in front of me.
But they exist somewhere.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Yeah.
There's quite a nice question
Um,
here from Martin Guerra on our feed. Do you have any memorabilia from the film? Did you keep anything?
You know what? I took the 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 Arctic parka that I was wearing in that. They let me have it at the end of the movie. I just put it in the bottom of my duffel bag. It was an Eddie Bauer parka. It was good. I proved it. It was good to 30 below zero, and it kept you warm. And I used it for the next 30 years. But when we went to Europe, I thought, wonder if I can sell this. So I took it with me to Europe and in Germany, and I made a bunch of money on it.
No, fair enough.
That's all.
You got
But I
you.
don't really have anything else. You know, we
you have
couldn't
the
see.
pictures.
I've got the snapshots. Yeah.
So
So
tell us a little bit about your book. What's your plan? What are you going to do?
yes, Greg. I'm sorry. I sold it. I sold it in Germany. Uh, my friend, I've been doing some short films with a friend of mine. He's a wonderful writer. We're getting money together to do a full length right now, but he and I are going to collaborate and just create a book with the snapshots and a blurb about what was going on at the time and stories from the thing. So, and then we'll self-publish or find someone to help us publish it, and we'll take it to the conventions.
Nice.
You should ask John to write a foreword. That would be
I'm
awesome.
sorry. I'm sorry.
You should ask John to write a little foreword for the book.
You're right. I should. Maybe I will. Maybe I will.
John, if you're listening, we need a
Yes.
forward
Yeah.
Yeah.
And saying, Polis, don't bother me. Or Polis, how much of a cut do I get? Did you see him on Colbert? He did an interview with Stephen Colbert, and he answered some question. He said, "Yes, and I will tell you if you write out a check and send."
Yeah.
That's, that's a good segue. I mean, into what draws so many people back to the film is this trying to figure it out, trying to work out what's happening when, who might be infected or assimilated at the end. There's this whole sort of world of sort of thing investigation out there now on the internet. What do you make of that? I mean, is it like a compliment to the film? But do you think ultimately we should just watch the film and just let it be?
It's a movie. It's a monster movie, you know, and it holds up, because it holds up, as I was saying before, because of the human element. 12 guys can't get out of there. Something's threatening their lives. We got to figure this out. We got to band together. And then when we realize it's spreading through us, the paranoia is off the charts. But it's that we lock onto as an audience, because we can imagine ourselves in that kind of a situation. What would I do? What would I do? Would I trust this guy or that guy, or what would I do? So I think what did you yeah did you see that movie about the kids in Thailand who got stuck on in the caves when the water came up. Viggo Mortensen does an
Yeah.
amazing job, and I I was terrified. I have claustrophobia to start with, but man, I saw that movie, and it's just what I'm talking about. You're watching it. It's like, what would I do? Could I do that? Could I actually put myself in that that kind of thing? So I think that's what locks us into the movie.
Yeah.
Right. And there are
Okay.
so many readings. Oh, sorry, Joel.
No, The Thing is like 12 Angry Men with an alien. Yes, Gary, right. Yeah, Colbert was awesome. And Johnny, do I regret selling that parka? I never thought about that until you just mentioned it. And now I'm thinking I could probably get. I mean, when the guys found out that I sold that parka for what I got for it, they were like, oh my God. And I could probably get 10 times as much now, but whatever.
And there's so many readings of the thing. You could read it as Cold War paranoia, the burgeoning AIDS crisis. Do you have a specific interpretation of the film?
Well, because I was in New York when the AIDS crisis started, that was the most relevant at that moment. But in the 50s, it was McCarthy. It was the So now the rise of fascism. You know what? I don't mean to. I'm not. I don't mean to insult anybody, or I don't want you to take offense. That's what's going on. So, for for me, that would be a real easy way to deal with it with
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
So
think that's the genius of it. You can plug it into any time and it's still relevant.
anytime the pandemic,
Hmm.
COVID,
Right.
we were all 6 feet away from each other, wearing masks, staying off the streets, not driving, staying home. It was like the thing. It
Yeah.
was the thing, you know,
It kept changing, didn't it? It kept
Yeah.
and it
mutating
kept
each
Mutating.
changing,
time.
Yeah.
and the rules kept changing,
Yeah.
just like the thing. So,
It was prophetic. Yeah.
And we have about a minute or so left. Ian, any closing questions or remarks?
Well, I want to ask this about fans, really, Joel. You sort of mentioned them along the way, and it strikes me that the film is kept alive by this extraordinary community out there who,
yeah.
yeah, for endlessly different reasons, adore the film, but love talking to each other about this film. What's your interaction with fandom been like, and how has it grown? I know you do conventions and you have met a lot of people. How do they come up to you, and what do they want to talk to you about?
Everything you've talked to me about, they they they're thrilled with the movie. It affected them deeply, and they treasure it as something they watch over and over again. I get 2 or 3 fan mails a week, which nobody's more surprised than I am. But they mention the thing invariably, all of them. Some other things from my career and everything, but the thing is the one that stays with them. So uh, yeah, it was just a terrific production to be associated with, to contribute to, and I'm so grateful to everybody for keeping it alive, um, with their fanship. You know,
What's
We-
the craziest fan question you've ever gotten?
I can't even repeat it. All I know is I was with Keith David's manager, and when the girl walked away from me, he said, "I'm impressed." I said, "Yeah, no, I'm too old for that shit."
Well, that does it for our latest ThingCast. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up. Thank you so much to Joel. This was incredible. And we will see you next time.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody. Take good care.
Yes. Awesome.